Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking everything that released in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. So we got ourselves all the spells that got released, the new subclasses, some changes to the items, as well as things like Steam trading cards, which we'll be breaking down in this video. And the first thing I want to focus on is Toll the Dead. Now this is a new cantrip that got added to the game, and what it does is if the target has full health, you only do a 1d8. This will scale up at levels 5 and 10 like the other cantrips in the game. However, if they've taken damage already, this will do a 1d12 scaling up to 3d12 at level 10 with a potential of 36 damage. Now, as we know, necrotic damage is resisted heavily in this game. However, the Death Cleric makes it so that you can ignore resistances to necrotic damage, making this slightly better. However, at the end of the day, it's still a cantrip, and there's some better options out there that give a bit of a different benefit. And most notably, I'm a big fan of Bone Chill. This prevents the target from receiving healing and gives undead disadvantage on attack rolls. While the extra 4 potential damage points is quite nice, I just don't think this is as effective. If you had to choose between one of these spells that you can only use for an entire game, Bone Chill wins probably 9 times out of 10, just because of that being able to stop targets from receiving healing and also giving disadvantage on attack rolls. So, well, this is a nice spell, and again, Reaper gives the Death Cleric the ability to apply this to 2 targets, and it ignores resistance to necrotic damage. It's not enough to put it in the very best tier. I would have to say Toll the Dead's not bad though. Like a D12 is some of the highest damage you can get from a cantrip, so that in itself is nice. I'm going to throw it in the B tier, however, just because there's other necrotic based cantrips that are just better with Bone Chill. So next we got ourselves Shadowblade. Now, what's cool is that if you take a Warlock, you can pretty much get all of these because the Warlock gets Shadowblade, the new Staggering Smite spell, and much more. But Shadowblade in particular is incredible because this gives us a weapon that does a ton of damage. At level 2 here, it does a 2d8 of damage. However, if we have this upcast, we can actually get a very more powerful version of it. So here's the Shadowblade at level 5 spell slot, which does a 4d8 plus your attack modifier. So I have strength right now, so 48 plus 8 damage. Not only this, they actually fixed the Shadowblade ability, so you have advantage on attack rolls against lately or heavily obscured targets, making this perfect if you want to be focusing on darkness, because you can hide out in your darkness. You get the Shadowblade enhanced, and if you have the Resonance Stone, that will double the damage. So that 48 becomes basically like 8d8, which is insane for a weapon attack, because you can do 2 attacks if you got the Warlock Packet of Blade. This is one of the most powerful abilities that got released in patch 8. It's absolutely crazy. I also posted a video on how you can make a permanent Shadowblade. It does keep the 2d8, so you can have an offhand Shadowblade too, and have the main hand one be the 48. That becomes crazy. What's also nice about Shadowblade is it lasts until long rest, so you can cast this right after camp. If you got a free cast, you got a free ability. Yeah, I think that Shadowblade seriously changed the meta of Baldur's Gate 3 just because that damage that you get from it is so incredibly strong. You can one-shot people easily with this. So for that, Shadowblade is an easy S tier. Like, this is just crazy. Now, previously, we did have Shadowblade in the game. You could get a ring that gave you the ability to cast Shadowblade. So this was something already previously in the game, but they did make some changes. So you can see there we have the Shadowblade ring. It would give it a level 2, and it was a concentration-based spell. Now it no longer requires that. I think that this is one of the craziest things that got added to the game and changed. So with that, I'd have to say that Shadowblade again, S tier easily, just due to how strong it is. And it also fixed the Knife of the Undermountain King because it also has the Shadowblade ability. Next, we got ourselves Bursting Sinew, which is a new cantrip from the Necromancy line. And it's, again, something that works well on a Cleric. Bursting Sinew, 3d10 piercing, exploding a corpse, causing to impale those around them. Piercing damage is nice. You can use this you can get increased damage with the Ballast Armor. However, out of all cantrips in the game, this requires you to have something else before it actually becomes effective. Let's say you just started off in a fight. You don't have corpses to explode. You can't actually do anything about that. You can see here, we got nada, zip, zilch, and nothing. So yeah, while that 1d10 is nice, it only scales up to a 3d10. So even at max level, it's a potential 3 damage. Exploding Corpse is cool. Again, is similar to the what we can do at Bone Chill, which is another necromancy cantrip, and Toll the Dead. The Death Cleric can use Reaper to apply this to 2 targets. As you see there, I have 2 little circles near the mouse there. So yeah, that's cool and all, but I think that this is actually worse than Toll the Dead. So I'm going to put that in the C tier. Cool concept, love exploding corpses. The damage just isn't very good. So with that, I'd have to say about C tier. Early game, that 1d10 is kind of nice, but it does require that explosion. It could be like B tier, C tier. It's just the other options that we got are so much better. And next we got Booming Blade. I'm sure you've heard how good this is. So what it does, you see there we got our Shadow Blade, which is 48 plus 8. This will add an additional 2d8 thunder damage, and you can use this every single action. Not just turn, but action. If you have haste, you can do this and attack, this and an attack with your 2 actions. This also will give the target 3 to 24 thunder damage if they move. So that's a potential of a 5d8 thunder on top of our Shadow Blade, which is already 48. Booming Blade is crazy. It's essentially a free smite that you can get. This made the Eldritch Knight Fighter so much better. This made pretty much everyone that gets Booming Blade got better when this released. So I can't think of anything bad to say about Booming Blade. It's all positives, pretty much no negatives. So with that, another S tier. I actually think this is probably better than Shadow Blade just because it's consistent. It made the Eldritch Knight better. It made the Hexblade crazy. It made the Hexblade a very solid single level dip, especially if you play as a Paladin, because with the Paladin, you can take Divine Smite, you got Booming Blade, so you get basically 2 smites for the price of 1 per action. That becomes crazy. Next, we got ourselves Staggering Smite, which was added to the Warlock spell list. Now, this is another solid one, because you can see here. So 48 or Shadow Blade damage plus 4d6 of extra psychic damage, and possibly stagger your target. You can't take reactions, is more likely to miss. Yes, this does take a bonus action. So does Banishing Smite, which is the potential of doing a 5d10 force damage. But here's why I think Staggering Smite is even better than our Banishing Smite. So that's the melee version, which does have a potential of 90 damage. The thing with this is psychic damage is doubled again. So Resonant Stone makes Staggering Smite pretty crazy. That 4d6 of extra psychic damage, so that's 64 maximum damage, is actually 128 total damage on a single single spell attack. That it's in itself is crazy. So I really think Staggering Smite is massive. I've had some people tell me I'm an idiot for thinking this is so great because it uses your concentration, it uses your bonus action. But if you're looking for pure raw Nova damage, it does actually go higher than Banishing Smite. So, I mean, that in itself is really nice. I am not going to put it in the S tier. That extra 46 psychic damage is massive. However, it's probably top of the B tier to A tier. I might throw it in the A tier just because, again, getting the potential of 128 damage is pretty crazy. If you don't have a concentration set up, and it can also stagger the target, so that in itself is great. If it was just force damage like Banishing Smite, whatever. Force damage is nice and all, but psychic damage can be doubled, which is crazy. And there's even gear that procs off your psychic damage to make this even better. So yeah, the Staggering Smite is pretty crazy. Next, I want to talk about something that procs off of our Shadow Blades, and this is the Gloves of the Battlemage's Power. So what exactly do the Gloves of the Battlemage's Power do? Well, this gives you Battlemage's Power. So when you hit a target with a spell or cantrip that uses a weapon, you gain Arcane Acuity. Now, this is, if you don't know what Arcane Acuity is, it gives you a +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls up to a maximum +10. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity is another really powerful item because this can give you that for 2 turns. But what's crazy about this is it didn't work previously before patch 8, and that's why it's on this list, because this item was pretty crappy beforehand. Now, if you have Shadow Blade and you attack somebody, you proc that. So, I'm sorry, Minsk, I'm gonna have to attack you there. You got our 2 stacks of Arcane Acuity, and that also hit for 56, just want to put that out there. So yeah, +1 to spell saves and spell difficulty class for every remaining turn. And yeah, you can get a +10 from that. You can stack this, you can get 6 stacks with a Divine Smite from the Paladin. Shadow Blade procs it, Booming Blade procs it. There's a lot that can proc it, and it actually becomes pretty crazy. Now, the reason that it's so powerful is when you get that, you can be a multi-attribute caster now, because that +10 is effectively, like, it makes your spell save DC crazy. So right now, just in this class, I have a 8 base difficulty challenge or class, +4 from charisma, +4 from proficiency. This will give us a +10, which makes this absolutely nuts, and doesn't actually require a lot to set up. You can get this relatively easily. So yeah, I would have to say that Gloves of Battlemage's Power are now an S tier item. Top of the A tier to S tier. Great on a lot of specific builds. Now, the Helmet of Arcane Acuity will proc if you use arrow many targets, and you can get a +10 easily. So yeah, there's just not as many good glove items. There's better hats in this game. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say that's the top of the A tier. Now, Steam trading cards. What are Steam trading cards, you may ask? Well, you can see here, we got these cards, and you click on it, and it gives you this nice image. You can display these on your profile on Steam. I think this is cool. I want to include this because not a lot of people even know about this, but they give you these really cool backgrounds you can also use on your desktop, similar to some of the images they shared during Christmas time. But yeah, they're really cool. You can see there Halston in his bear form. We got Shadowheart. Yeah, I think this is nice, and it's cool that they added this to the game after its launch. So yeah, I got to give a shout out to for Larry and making this a reality. So yeah, well, it's not the craziest thing in the world. I still think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to put it into the B tier, A tier, somewhere around there. It's just cool. I mean, it's weird to compare these all against each other. I think it's an awesome thing to add. Now we're getting into the subclasses. The first one I'm going to focus on is the Hexblade. This is actually pretty crazy. So with the Hexblade, what does it do? Well, a single level dip into the Hexblade will actually give you the Hexblade's Bind Pact Weapon. So if you have a Paladin, you can just add a single level and just focus all in your charisma and use that for your attack rolls. It also gives you Booming Blade. It also has Armor of Agathis. It also gives, and these can be cast with your other spell slots. So if you take a single level, you get those Warlock spell slots, you can take 11 levels of something else, and you can use your other spell slots on these. So you can max out your Armor of Agathis. You also get the Shield spell. You also get the Hexblade's Curse. A single level can add a lot. You can even get Wrathful Smite, which adds a little bit of psychic damage. Hexblade's Curse gives you a damage bonus equal to your proficiency bonus and increased critical hit chance with it. So yeah, the Hexblade is pretty crazy. On top of all that, it also has access to the Shadow Blade. It has access to Staggering Smite, Banishing Smite, Cone of Cold, you name it, it probably does it. The Hexblade is absolutely nuts. You've heard it a million times. I don't need to beat a dead horse. This is a very powerful class, and I'm going to put it up into the S tier. It's seriously super, super good. And next we got ourselves the College of Glamour Bard. Now, I'll be honest, this is not that good. So what it gets at level 3 here, we get the Mantle Inspiration. You can give your teammates 5 temporary health, and if they get hit with a melee attack, the attacker becomes charmed while they have that temporary health. This will later increase to 11 temporary health, which is, hey, it's something. At level 6, this class gets the Mantle of Majesty command. So it's basically a bonus action command spell. It doesn't use a spell slot, which is nice, but it can't be upcast. Now, the reason that this is so weak is the College of Swords gives us all these fighting styles. It gives you these abilities like you can teleport to targets, you can increase your armor class by 4, you can attack 2 targets at the same time with a bow attack. So you can do 4 bow attacks at level 6, or attack 4 targets at level 6 as well with a sword. So this makes the College of Glamour weak because with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel you can get in Act 3, which I know it's a little bit later in the game, but you can do a bonus action command that way and do it up to 6 targets versus just 1. So yeah, that's cool and all, but the Mantle of Majesty it's okay. I mean, it increases to 8 temporary health once you make it to level 6, and then at level 10 it gets the 11 temporary health and you can do it to 4 targets. But that's not super powerful, I'll be honest. There's a lot of things that resist charms, and while it's cool and all, there's just better subclasses for the Bard. So I honestly just had to put the College of Glamour in the D tier. It's just not that good. However, getting on to the next one, the Death Cleric. Now with the Death Cleric, it has some cool abilities. So we get ourselves, you can use your cantrips with the Reaper here on 2 targets. So it only works in Necromancy, so like Toll the Dead. Make this cantrip Bone Shield, by the way, and you can still take your Toll the Dead and the Bursting Sinew spells here. But with the Death Domain, it has some fun things. So you get Martial Weapon Proficiency, you get those cantrips that target 2 people, you get Bone Chill, Bursting Sinew, and Toll the Dead. You also get False Life and the Ray of Sickness, which is kind of nice. At level 2, we get the Channel Divinity, which is cool. The Channel Divinity basically gives it so that whenever you do a melee attack, this gives you 5 plus twice your Cleric level in damage. So that extra necrotic damage is kind of nice, and it's used as it pops up whenever you do your melee attack. It also applies if you use the spell Inflict Wounds, which is 3d10 and upcastable, so can do a decent bit of damage together. It also gives you the Blindness and Ray of Enfeeblement spell, Animate Dead, Vampiric Touch. At level 6, you can ignore resistance to necrotic damage, making it actually useful, especially in Act 2 when there's a lot of resistances. However, if the target has immunity, it's not going to damage it. At level 7, you get Blight and Death Ward. At level 8, you get additional 1d8 necrotic damage on your attacks. At level 9, you get Cloud, Kill, and Contagion. So yeah, it's cool and all, but the Tempest Cleric's better, the Light Cleric's better, the Life Cleric is better, the Nature Cleric's probably better too. So from all of this, it's okay at all, but I mean, there's better classes out there, so I'd have to say this one's probably like somewhere around B tier. It's good thematically. Like if you really, I'll put it top of the C tier. If you really want to use necrotic damage, this is the only way to make it viable. So, hey, it's cool for themes, but that's not everything. Next, we got ourselves the Circle of Stars Druid. Now, the Druid, it gets some special starry forms. You can use it to go into Archer, Chalice, or Dragon. They actually just fixed this in the last update, so you can now get the Owlbear here. The Dragon gives it so that your concentrations, any saving throw for holding concentration, you can never roll lower than a 10. And you also get Dazzling Breath, which does quite a bit of radiant damage in a cone, and it's actually kind of strong. The Chalice here, whenever you do a healing spell, you can then do a free bonus action heal. And the Starry Form Archer gives you Luminous Arrow, which is an additional radiant damage deck. So it's great for radiating orbs because that can hit actually kind of hard. So Luminous Arrow does a 1d8 plus spellcasting modifier radiant damage, and then at level 10 it becomes a 2d8 of radiant damage. And the Dazzling Breath is a 2d6 plus spellcasting modifier, and then at level 5 it becomes 3d6, and level 10 it becomes 4d6, which is actually pretty nice as a bonus action ability. We also get these special star map versions, so you can do a Guiding Bolt as a free action here. It doesn't actually take up your spell slots, and you also get the spell slot version if you wanted it to. So that's kind of nice. And in addition to this, at level 6, we get the Cosmic Omen. So we get a special ability to increase attack rolls or decrease them for your teammates' ability checks. So if your teammates are attacking, they miss, you can turn it into a hit. Or if they get attacked and it's going to hit them, you can turn it into a miss. So it's actually kind of nice defensively. And once we hit level 10, then we can fly after we use our abilities to up to 6 meters, which is not large, but it's something extra. So the Star Druid is cool. I still think that the Circle of the Moon and Circle of Land are better. Or I mean, Circle of Spores and Moon are better. It kind of goes hand to hand with the Land Druid. They're both casters that have a wild shape as a backup. That bonus action Dazzling Breath from the Dragon is really nice. And even the Archer is really effective too. So you got two really powerful abilities as bonus actions. I think it's really cool for that reason in itself. So I'd have to say the Star Druid is probably, I would say, it's B tier. It's not bad, but it's not as good as some of the other options that we got here. So yeah, we'll throw it right there. Next, we got the Arcane Archer Fighter. And with the Arcane Archer, you get a cantrip like Guidance, Light, or True Strike, the worst cantrip in the game. And you get the Arcane Shots. This is the main component of this. So you get a number of arrows here. And once you hit level 7, you get an increase to 7. You get 4 at start. At level 7 it goes to 7, and at level 10 it becomes 10 arrows. So it's much better in D&D. I like the piercing arrow. You can shoot through multiple targets. It actually has a very wide range you can blast people with. The shadow arrow blinds the target potentially and does psychic damage. We got the seeking arrow, which will find the target and apply fairy fire. Grasping arrow will do poison damage and give slashing damage when they move. Enfeebling arrow can make them feeble, making them strength based attacks much weaker, and it does necrotic damage. Bursting arrow hits in a huge area of effect, kind of like fireball, and does force damage. Beguiling arrow here can what it does is it makes the target charmed. And we also have banishing arrow, which can banish a target, which is crazy early game. So also at level 7 we get the curving shot. You can use a bonus action to hit the next closest attacker anytime you miss with an attack. Now the arcane shots are a big component of this. My favorites are these 3 here, like bursting arrow, seeking arrow, and piercing arrow. This does use intelligence for its weapon attacks, so just be mindful of that. It's something to keep in consideration. You will need a bit of intelligence if you want to use some of the other spells like the grasping or the blinding arrow or shadow arrow. It's nice, but I still think the Battle Master is probably a bit stronger than this. So that in itself, this is an archer archetype. It's pretty good, but I might just throw it into the B tier. It's not as good as some of the other options that we have here. So the way the Drunken Master contrasts with how good the Open Hand Monk is, it just makes it poor. So with this, you get the subclass feature Cheeky Tipple. You immune to the negative effects of being drunk, which is just disadvantage on dexterity ability checks. And you get half your key points rounded down whenever you drink alcohol. It's kind of cool. Drunken Proficiency, you gain proficiency in performance, and you also get the Drunken Technique, which does an attack. Not as good as the ones that you get from the Open Hand Monk, but this can give you 3 meters extra movement speed and the benefits of a disengage. Now, this class is pretty bad. I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. I tried to make it good. It's not that great. So once we get to level 4, you get the Intoxicating Strike, which can make the target drunk. You get the Life of the Party, so every time Intoxicating Strike will hit a target, they gain Life of the Party, which is a bonus to armor class and attack rolls against drunk targets. They also use less movement speed whenever they get knocked prone, and they get the Redirect Attack, which you can use a 1 key point as a reaction to make it whenever a creature misses you with an attack, you can do a counterattack, similar to what you already get from one of the items in late Act 3 with the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation. At level 9, you get Sobering Realization. You do additional 2d8 of psychic damage on a punch, and it gets rid of all your stacks of life for the party. So that minus, you don't get that +5 to your armor class. And you also get the Drunkard's Luck. When you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, and have disadvantage on that roll, you can use 2 key points to make it to get rid of the disadvantage. This class straight up is not that great. I posted a build for it yesterday, so you can check that out if you want to see the maximum. You can make it good with a rogue, but I'd have to say it's probably D tier as well. Just the Shadow Monk is so great. The Open Hand Monk is one of the best in the game. Probably top 3 build with the Rogue Thief added in. Way of the 4 Elements is okay. It's not a great, but it's better than the Drunken Master, which just straight up stinks. So yeah. And the Oath of the Crown Paladin. So this gives us the Righteous Clarity, adding proficiency bonus to attack rolls, which is kind of nice as a channel oath for 10 turns. And we also get a bunch of unique abilities. So at level 3, we get basically a goading attack, which hits in a 9-meter radius, which is massive. And we also get the option to do Turn the Tide, which is a heal. So you got 2 other great uses for your channel divinity if you didn't want it, or channel oath if you didn't want to use it on this here. You also get command spells, warding bonds, spiritual weapon, spirit guardians at level 9. And you get the divine allegiance, so you can basically take damage in front of, like, if your teammate gets damage, you can take damage for them. This is like a true tank in Baldur's Gate 3. Getting spirit guardians and spiritual weapon is really nice as well. So yeah, I mean, if you want to go full radiating orbs, you can get spirit guardians. You can get your improved divine smite, which adds a 1d8 bonus radiant damage on all attacks at level 11. The Oath of the Crown is actually pretty good. I'll be honest, I think it's fun. It's not perfect, but it's fun. So with that, I'd have to say it's probably like top of the B tier to A tier, probably somewhere around there. Yeah, I'll put it at the top. I'll put it in the A tier. It's fun. And next we got ourselves a Swarmkeeper Ranger. So with this, we get ourselves the Prey Scent, which gives you additional damage on targets that are marked by your Hunter's Mark. And then we get to choose a swarm. So 3 different ones. We get the Legion of Bees, which will add additional piercing damage and push the target away from you. Or you can teleport for a safer area. Cloud of Jellyfish will do lightning damage, shock them, or teleport you away. And the Flurry of Moths, my favorite, which does psychic damage, can blind the target or move you to a safer place, which is awesome. And then whenever we get to a higher level, where the bees will give you a pushback and knock the target prone, the shock turns into shock and disarm the target if they fail a Constitution saving throw. And the Flurry of Moths blinds the target and slows them, which is really nice on a failed Constitution saving throw. So this will also scale that one. It does a 1d6 of piercing, lightning, or psychic damage, and it scales up to a 1d8 whenever you hit level 11. You get the Writhing Tide, which you can use to move around a little bit with the tide. At level 5, you get the Web spell. Now, is it better than Hunter? No. Is it better than Gloomstalker? Definitely not. And is it better than Beastmaster? No. So Gloomstalker probably being the best. It's front loaded up to level 5. The Swarmkeeper is cool though. I mean, you can get the swarm on your attacks if you take a 3-level dip, so it's cool if you want to add that to your character. But in essence, I would have to say that this is a probably top of the C tier to B tier, somewhere around B tier. It's not bad as some of the other options out there. I might even just say it's probably B tier, just be safe. Next, we got ourselves Giant Barbarian. The Giant Barbarian. I love this one. And what it gives you is Giant's Rage, which will double your size, or double the bonus on your throwing damage, and you increase in size. What's cool about this is when you get level 10, you get a suplex. That's my favorite part about it. At level 5, you get the Boot of the Giants as a bonus action kick, and this can move targets and knock them off of ledges. At level 6, you get the Elemental Cleaver, which can add an elemental damage type to your weapons. What's cool is you can add cold damage and then throw your weapon. It does cold damage, and then you can make ice surfaces if you get the Snowburst ring. What's also nice, the Elemental Cleaver gives the thrown ability to every weapon. So whenever you do a throwing attack, you can now throw a Baldur and Giant Slayer and have it do the 2d6 damage instead of the 1d4 it would normally do. So this lets you use things other than the Returning Pike and Nyrolna, which is awesome. And then again, at level 10, you get the Mighty Impel, which is a suplex attack. You can check out my builds for further detail on it, because I think that this class is just the coolest and very powerful too. The fact that you can make any weapon a throwing weapon makes it a definite A tier for me, so I have to put it in there. It's just a great class. And next we got ourselves the Swashbuckler Rogue. With the Swashbuckler, you get the fancy footwork, so when you do an attack, you can't be hit with an opportunity attack for that turn. You actually get the Rakish Audacity, which gives a +2 bonus to your initiative and skills with your rogue level. And you no longer need advantage to trigger your sneak attacks. That's cool and all. But level 4 is where we get the best abilities. So bonus action abilities. We got Dirty Trick, Flick of the Wrist, which does your weapon damage as a bonus action and possibly disarms the target. That's pretty huge. You also get the Vicious Mockery Dirty Trick. Also quite huge, getting yourself the ability to give a disadvantage on an ability or attack roll. And then we also get this pocket sand, throw some dirt in your eye, dirty trick sand toss, which can possibly blind the target. So this is really nice. I think the dirty trick flick of the wrist is the best, to give yourself the ability to disarm a target with a bonus action attack. This works great as at level 4, this is where we get all the best benefits. At level 9, you get the panache, where you roll a persuasion check to beguile a humanoid, which must contest with an insight check. This either gives them disadvantage or charm to the target, which is not really huge. It's okay in most instances. Flick of the wrist is probably the best ability that you get from here. It's just very meh. The rogue itself, not incredibly strong combat wise, but this is a cool one. I wish it got an extra attack. That would have made it really nice. But yeah, the swashbuckler is probably somewhere around C tier. Just not as strong as some of the other options. But my two favorites next. So for the Shadow Sorcerer, you get Superior Dark Vision and the Strength of the Grave. That's cool and all, but it's actually at the higher levels when we get some of the more fun abilities, because yeah, the Shadow Sorcerer is actually quite powerful. So level 2, same old, same old. But once we get to level 3, this is when we get ourselves the Eyes of the Darkness, which is darkness that uses 2 sorcery points. However, this also gives us the ability to see in the darkness, which is very, very strong. I can't understate this, because target enemies that don't have the ability to see in darkness can't attack you with melee or bow attacks. They have to do throwing attacks. It's a weird thing in the AI. So it really makes you defensive. And that's its intended purpose. It's not a glitch. It's meant to be that strong. Darkness is great because the Hexblade can now work around it. And there's 3 pieces of items in the game that'll give you the ability to not be blinded. So it becomes really strong and very effective for defensive purposes. Now, my favorite part is the Hound of Ill Omen here, which creates a summon for the creature of darkness, 3 bonus action or 3 sorcery points. It's a bonus action, and when you summon it in, basically what it does is it has an ominous bite, which you can use to apply an omen on a target. So whenever you summon the dog in, it also has an umbral tangle ability too. So here's what it looks like. It looks like Scratch, good boy. So it's got that umbral tangle, which is 2d6 necrotic and possibly traps the target for 3 turns, and the ominous bite. This doesn't hit often, but when it does, it can potentially apply an omen. So let's say we apply an omen of fire. You then have to do fire damage to that target and you regain a sorcery point. And this can continue on and on and on. Another thing is anytime that this dog's hit with a melee attack that doesn't do radiant damage, it'll splinter off into another dog. And then those dogs can also splinter off into more dogs. So you can have a huge army of dogs from this. And another thing is when you get to level 11, you get a shadow step basically. So you can teleport to any shaded area. This whole camp here actually counts as lately obscured. So any shadow that you can see, you can teleport into it. Now, the cool thing about that is it also gives you distance spells, so it increases the range of your spells. So if you're going to do like a magic missile, you can see we can actually hit like all the way pretty much everywhere in camp here. The range is that crazy. So what's nice about that is you got lots of options for range, because you can teleport back to your darkness, get the extended range in your spells. The Shadow Sorcerer is awesome and very powerful. I think that it's one of the best in patch 8 because darkness is just so good, and it actually works well with Shadowblade. You can have a full team like the Hexblade Warlock with the Shadowblade and Booming Blade. You can have your Sorcerer, which also gets Shadowblade and Booming Blade. You can multiclass that into Paladin and do some smites. You can do a lot of crazy stuff with it. So very, very effective. And finally, we got the Bladesinging Wizard, which I think is also really fun. Now, what's cool about this is you get basically a spell casting. You get spell casting, you get melee weapons, and you can cast using a dagger, sickle, short sword, rapier, scimitar, or longsword. It has some cool attack animations, and just want to clear something up on this. This doesn't actually change your proficiencies. It just gives you a free weapon similar to the quarterstaff, so you got something to use for a weapon. But basically what happens is at level 6, you get yourself an extra attack, making you pretty powerful in combat. We also get the Blade Song here, which is our unique ability, which gives us a plus proficiency bonus to armor class, increases movement speed, and gives a plus proficiency bonus to our constitution saving throws, so we're more likely to hold our concentrations. In addition to this, we also get the ability to use any of the weapons I mentioned previously. We also get light armor proficiency and performance skill. And at level 9, we get additional Blade Song power, so we can get 4 total uses at level 9. And at level 10, we get the Song of Defense. Whenever we take damage, when we have our Blade Song up, we can use a spell slot to reduce the damage by 5 times that spell slot. So if you use a level 5 spell slot, it's minus 25 damage. This is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's S tier, but it's fun. It gives for most people, like I would say the Abjuration's the best, but you have to do some weird cheese to make it so that it procs Armor of Agathis and you don't get hurt and you run around. I don't find that playstyle fun. I like to be able to cast spells and be a bit, defensive, or, have some melee options too. So the Bladesinging Wizard, it gets all of that. I'd have to say it's probably an A tier choice. So all in all, the best new features in patch 8, I would say Hexblade by far, single level dip, best single level dip. Booming Blade, massive. This might actually be the true best in this game. Shadow Blade, massive spell, very damaging. Shadow Sorcerer, super cool. Gives you some new abilities to play the game with playing in darkness, teleporting around. Gloves of Battlemage of Power, very powerful now. Staggering Smite, also quite strong. It's probably lower than A tier. Bladesinging Wizard, the Giant Barbarian, and the Crown Paladin all offer cool playstyles. The Bladesinging Wizard, straightforward wizard and melee attacker. The Giant Barbarian gives you the option to throw, and this is the Crown Paladin, making it a true tank of the game. Arcane Archer, Star Druid, and Swarmkeeper are also solid. I love the Steam trading cards, and Toll the Dead's all right too. These are not as strong as some of the other options, like the Swashbuckler and Death Cleric, Bursting Sinew, better cantrips out there. And Glamour Bard and Drunken Monk just kind of suck, I'll be honest. Considering two of the best subclasses in the game are the Open Hand Monk and the Sword Bard. These just don't compete in any capacity. So that's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you have not already, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day.